Recently, I've gotten back into the world of dating. However, I have noticed something that is a bit tricky. I've never really done healthy dating before. So I've noticed myself falling into all sorts of basic dating traps, like getting obsessed with someone who I don't know anything about. And it really wasn't good. Like, it got to the point where I would be thinking about this person and projecting about the future things that we could do together and the dates we'd go on and the life we'd have. And it, like, affected my sleep. And I just thought, this is getting out of control. So I did what any healthy and sane person would do. I went to the internet to find the best tips that I possibly could. And what I realized was this has nothing to do with dating and everything to do with me as a person. And if you are suffering from this same thing, if you feel like you're obsessed with someone and you get too obsessed in early dating, then stay tuned because you're in for a real treat here. So, through my research and then really applying this to myself, and it's worked by the way, I am sleeping brilliantly and not spending my time idealizing and fantasizing about strangers, I've come to realize 5 kind of steps that you need to take to realize why you're obsessing over someone and how you can get over that. And the first thing that you need to do is to correctly identify this feeling that you have. What is that feeling when you're obsessed with someone? It feels tingly and exciting and nervous and pretty overwhelming. You start thinking, do they like me? Why haven't they texted me? Do they even like me? Am I going to be alone forever? Oh my God, am I ever going to find the right person? And it's very overwhelming because you start thinking these thoughts and you go down this rabbit hole. But it also kind of feels good. And here's where you need to notice what it actually is. That feeling is anxiety. It is not a sign that this is the right person for you, that's for sure. It's a sign that you are feeling anxious. And those thoughts, do they like me? Will they ever date me? Will I ever find someone? Those are a form of anxious rumination that you use to try and regulate yourself to make yourself feel better. So I want to be clear. If you're obsessing over someone, the feelings that you have, the thoughts that you're having about how wonderful that they are not a sign of how good quality that person is. They're actually a sign that you're feeling anxious and that you're ruminating as a form of self-regulation. And when I heard this, when I read this, I was like, oh, I do this in other areas of my life too. There's a great saying, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I really notice this applies in this situation because I apply that sort of anxious thinking about work, about buying a house, about training to be a therapist, about all sorts of different parts of my life. This is part of the anxious part of my attachment style. And so once you've realized that, you can then understand the second thing. Your anxiety has got nothing to do with them. And that's very helpful for you to know because being aware of that puts the power out of their hands and into yours. And it also lets you realize that this anxious feeling you have isn't going to go away. If you ask this person out and they reject you, or you have a couple of dates and then it doesn't end up working out, that anxious feeling is going to pop up again with the next person that you meet. Again, I have this with work. I have a big important meeting coming up. I'll work for it. It's so important. And then it'll be over. And I'm kind of crashing and recovering and resting for a couple of weeks. And then another important meeting will come up and I'll think, that's the big and important one. And I'll go work all the way for that one. And it's, I know it's not the case for work and it's not the case for dating either. And so if you know that, it's actually really helpful in these early stages of dating because you realize there's nothing there. You don't actually have anything to lose. And you can start taking this power back for yourself. And when you start taking this power back for yourself, you need to recognize the unmet need underneath your anxiety. And this is the part where I said, it's got nothing to do with dating. When you stop viewing romantic obsession as something to do with the natural dating process and start viewing it as a symptom of your own anxiety, you can really get to the root of the issue here. Behind the anxiety that we feel when we get obsessed with someone is an unmet need. Becoming obsessed feels like it's this awful, terrible thing, but it's actually a great sign that there's an area of work here that you can do for yourself. It's a way that you can look after and care for yourself so that you can then also be better for a future partner if that's also your primary motivation. The obsession is your subconscious's way of crying out, "Help me, there's something here." And identifying what that unmet need is so that you can help yourself starts with noticing and being aware. And usually, when you spend some time with it, it comes down to, I don't feel safe. And that right there is gold. This need, this feeling, oh, I don't feel safe, that is what you're really looking for. And that need is a gift. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a very human need. It's a very healthy human need. Because we want to be able to express ourselves truly and honestly without fear of repercussion or being punished. And so if you notice that you have this unmet need and that you need to feel safe to express yourself and to be yourself, it's very likely that in other relationships in your life, you have not been able to do that. And so this need has been unmet. And that's why you're transferring it into this romantic relationship. And that's really the issue. We allow our subconscious to project this need onto someone else. And so you take someone who you've been on 3 dates with and you say, "You're now responsible for making me feel safe." And the only way you can do that is by texting me at exactly the right time, talking to me in exactly the right way, saying the exact right things, and generally demonstrating that you are into me just as much as I am into you, and preferably a little bit more, because that's the only way that I'm really going to feel safe. And if this person doesn't do all of those things with the exact right intensity and timing, you're not going to feel safe, your anxiety is going to flare up, and you're going to start obsessing and ruminating. And then that usually leads to you acting really kind of weirdly, and then you self-sabotage and end up pushing them away, which then makes you feel more anxious. And that will push healthy people away because you're giving them too much responsibility for your needs. And that is a red flag to someone who is healthy and securely attached in their dating style. And on the other hand, toxic and not well-intentioned people are going to sniff that out and they're going to know exactly how to manipulate you and use you because you've just given it to them. I fell into this trap once with someone, and they're not actually a bad person for doing this. This is just how they learned to live through life, but it almost ruined my way of living. It drained me of my time, my money, and my zest for life. And of course, the breakup was one of the worst things ever because I'd given them so much power over me. So, so remember your boundaries, your feelings, your needs, your property. And if you want to let someone else support you in that, you've got to be really clear that they're good and that they're able to do that. They're a safe person to do that with. And that you're not totally abdicating responsibility. You're just naturally leaning on interdependence that is part of a healthy relationship. And so before you actually find a romantic partner who's able to do that for you, you need to learn how to meet those needs for yourself. And the best news about having an unmet need is that no matter what wound caused it or whatever else has happened in your life, because it's yours, you have all the power and all the ability to heal it. So if your unmet need is, I need to feel safe, and in dating you project that externally, I am looking for someone to make me feel safe. You can turn that around and go, I am looking for myself to make me feel safe. You have to give yourself the love, the reassurance, the feeling of safety and security that you so deeply crave. And you can do that by recognizing that you are more than just this single need. You have a plethora of tools in your toolkit and multiple different parts of yourself that can actually help you take care of yourself. It's really tempting to start identifying with our anxiety and our fears and getting lost as, I'm an anxious person, I'm a ruminating person, I'm an obsessing person. And it is good to feel your feelings and to express that. But we are not our feelings. You are not your thoughts or your feelings. You are much more than that. And you're also not your anxious part of you that doesn't feel safe. And that really brings us to the bottom of this all. Who is that part of you? I'm going to suggest that that part of you is your inner child. It's your frightened inner child. And what it needs is for you to take your inner parent and to give it some good enough parenting so that it feels safe. I find it really helpful to view the scared and anxious part of me as a child crying out for attention and need and love, because children are inherently incapable of looking after those needs all for themselves. That is a quality of being a child. And if you had a child in real life, you wouldn't just let it scream out on the floor and be sad and upset. You'd pick it up and you'd look after it and you'd soothe it. And so you can do that yourself by using your inner parent on yourself and on your own inner child. And the way you do this in dating is by first acknowledging that the need is there. So you say, oh gosh, I really hear that you are scared and anxious and that you do not feel safe. I really hear that. And then you've got to let your anxious and frightened inner child really express that. Make sure you get it out and feel it and get in touch with it. You don't have to identify with it, but you can get in touch with it and let it really be heard and expressed. Then you can reassure yourself. You can take your inner child and go, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I know that this person feels like the most important person in the whole world and that you're never going to find anybody else who's as good as them and you might end up horribly alone, but you're not. It's going to be okay. And your inner child is probably going to protest and kick and scream and really push back against that. And you need to hold yourself firmly and gently in kindness with yourself. And then that's the third part. You need to be firm. Being a good parent isn't just cuddles and kindness. It's firm but gentle boundaries. Like, you can't just give children cuddles all day. You also need to pick them up and scoop them away from sticking their tongue in an electric socket. And they're probably going to cry when they do that, but you still need to do it. And so you can tell yourself, I know that this person feels so important, but we're not going to start obsessing over them. We're not going to keep doing that now. Let's go and hang out with friends or work out or spend some time doing something that we're passionate about. And you need to be really firm with yourself there. The rest of this doesn't work if you aren't able to hold that boundary for yourself, that you do not ruminate anxiously and obsess over the people that you're dating. And so the next time that you find yourself obsessing over someone, you can notice, oh, I'm anxiously ruminating. And then you can go through that process of acknowledging it, feeling and listening to, oh gosh, I feel really scared right now. I want some safety. Then you can reassure it. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. There are other people out there. I have survived this far without that person, and I will continue to survive without that person. And then you can give yourself a nice firm boundary of, we're not going to entertain obsessing them anymore. Let's go and do something else. And if you're able to do that, you will really find that you'll stop obsessing over other people and you'll be able to be more peaceful and calm and self-loving in the dating process. And as a bonus, you've just done some inner child work on healing your own anxiety. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Please hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video for more content like this. I wish you all the best in your healing journey, and I'll see you again soon.